Murder by Cheesecake by Rachel Ekstrom Courage. I consider myself to be a Golden Girls fan, but that comes with a caveat. I like the early series. After series 2, it begins to gradually go downhill, and I find the later series almost unwatchable. The style is different, the humor is different, and the new writers didn't seem to know the characters. The characters don't behave true to themselves. Blanche in particular becomes very one-dimensional. And then there's this book, which chronologically takes place in the early series, but stylistically it would have been an episode of Series 8 had it ever been made. The writer, Rachel Ekstrom Courage, seems to know nothing about the characters, and this is made all the more apparent by Yvonne Newman's poor performance as a narrator. For example, Sophia doesn't once call Dorothy Pussycat, and she has the absolute worst Picture It Sicily story ever. Rachel Ekstrom Courage obviously felt that she had to get in one of those stories without appreciating what the stories actually mean. Meanwhile, Rose in the TV series isn't innocent. She's naive. But the author doesn't understand that. She hones in on the dumb aspect. And the main problem with this book is that the story focuses on Rose. Thus we are treated to an inordinate number of silly St. Olaf stories and traditions. In any normal episode, we would hear one or two of these things, but this book is saturated with them, and they quickly lose their charm and their humor. The writer manages to shoehorn in the one about St. Sigmund's Day, but then creates a whole catalogue of sayings and traditions all of her own, and they're not good. Not good at all. The plot is that Rose's cousin/niece is getting married and has, of course, decided to have the wedding in Miami. The niece's fiance's family live in Miami, and they soon commandeer the whole wedding to the exclusion of all the bride's family. It's utterly ridiculous and unbelievable. Into this mix, Dorothy goes on a date with someone she meets through a video dating service. The date goes badly, he leaves without saying goodbye, and then he turns up dead in the hotel where all the guests from St. Olaf are staying. It takes hours to get to this stage, I should point out. In the beginning few chapters, there are a few moments that raise a smile, but all attempts at humor are abandoned as Rose continues to make plans for the wedding. Eventually, the girls decide it's up to them to solve the murder, after a few more hours, and so they go about doing a bit of detecting, but it's all very poorly handled and doesn't have any of the hallmarks of a cozy murder mystery. The murder and the wedding are both competing for space in the story, and both end up losing. The wedding preparations are so bizarre as to not be amusing, and the murder is so poorly handled because you never for 1 minute believe that Dorothy will be convicted. All of this is made worse by the narrator. She seems to attempt to do impressions of the Golden Girls, but she fails miserably. It's tempting to say that Dorothy is the worst of the bunch, because she truly is awful. She sounds more masculine than the male characters. However, Blanche is equally bad. The narrator does a vague southern accent, but it doesn't have any of the warmth of the Blanche that we know from the TV show. Sophia is perhaps barely passable. Rose sounds like the narrator. I can't say she even tried to do anything for Rose. But then there are other characters. To say that Yvonne Newman has no talent for accents is an understatement. Gustav is the worst by far, but the others are all terrible. And it's a minor niggle, but it must be mentioned. She doesn't pronounce Olaf the way they do in the show. Poor research by the narrator. Finally, there are problems with poor research by the author. Rachel Ekstrom Courage describes the famous Art Deco hotels as existing in North Beach, when they are in fact in South Beach. Collins Avenue sounds like it's a mere minute or two away from Little Havana, while it's closer to half an hour, of course depending on whether you're in North Beach or actually in South Beach. She throws in little asides that are supposed to make us smile, like talking about the invention of pool noodles, but they don't work. I found myself sighing a lot while listening to this book, as there are so many implausible things or characters acting against type. Would I buy another book written by Rachel Ekstrom Courage? No. Would I buy another book in this series? Perhaps, if written by someone else. Would I buy another audiobook narrated by Yvonne Newman? No, she's very poor. There is very little, if anything, to like about this book. As a cozy mystery, it doesn't work. As a Golden Girls episode, it doesn't work. The narrator is poor and the research was non-existent. The resolution to the murder is deeply unsatisfying, and that's a cardinal sin in cozy mysteries. All in all, I'd give the book a 1 out of 5, and I'd give the narrator a 1 out of 5 as well. How about you? Have you read this book? Were you a fan of the TV series? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe as I release a new review every week. Thanks for listening.